going to jump back into it now and do the section list, which will be exciting. I'm going to try to copy and paste a little code if I can, so I don't have to write it from scratch, but maybe I won't do that just yet. So I was going to make the data that we're going to pull in the section list, put in the section list. And so I'm going to bring back up my handy React Native Express and go into section list and use this as sort of a template that I can follow. So I'll call it sections. I want one object, and I'll say the ID is Thursday. And then the data are actually, I guess the ID would be, where is it? The ID would be the time, and I'll have a separate list for Thursday and Friday. So actually, I'll have Thursday sections, and then I'll separately have Friday sections. So the ID will be 8:30 a.m., and then the data is only actually going to be one item. So I'll just use the name of it, I guess, for now. Or I could make up a number or something. I'll do that. So I'll just make up an ID of 0, and I'll say it has a title of registration and breakfast. And now I'll make another section, 10 a.m., which has an ID of 0 also. And this will be title of conference keynote. And I'll say speaker is Lucy Botany. That should work. I'll send this to everyone. So here is the mock data that I'm using. Oh, and I'll make one for Friday sections. And I'll just change it a little bit so that we can tell it's different. More breakfast and more keynote. So now I have a Thursday sections and a Friday sections. Hopefully there are no errors in these, only because I have to send them out again. There's some sample data that you can use. And you can imagine if you were getting this data from an API, you would just have to transform it into the data format that SectionList expects. So when we end up using GraphQL later, we might pre-transform it for you, but normally you'd need to just transform it into something that looks like this. So okay, so now I also want a key extractor, which is that thing that just pulls whatever thing I want to use as my key out of my data. So I'll grab the one I used before that grabs the ID, because both sections have an ID and data rows have an ID. And now I'm going to grab the section list element. And again, I'm getting all this stuff from React Native Express .com/sectionlist, just from this snack that I made earlier, just as a shortcut so I don't have to type so much. So if the image thing is the header, then I want the section list to go below it. I'll say its style be called list. And let me go down and style it. I want the list to fill any remaining space vertically. So I'm going to say flex 1. I think that's all I need on it. Sections is the data that I defined up above. And so for now, I'm just going to put in Thursday sections. Extract key is the function I defined up above to pull out the ID field. So now I just need to define render item and render section header, and I should have a fully working list. So I'll start with render item. And render item will take the item, and I want to return, let's see, what should it look like? It's just a view, the background, because I might want to style it, with some text in it. So, a view with text. And the item, let's see what the data format of that looks like. It has ID and title. So I just want to say item.title. And I'm going to just clone this for the section header. So I'll have a second thing that looks pretty much the same called render section header, except now instead of taking an item, it takes a section. I need to import SectionList at the top of the file. And a lot of warnings. So let's see. Extract key looks. Here? Yeah. Well, let me double check what I was doing in my snack. I'm pretty sure you do get past the item as a property because there's some other stuff that you can get if you want to, like you can get the index of the element that's being passed through. So I think that part's okay. But clearly something else is wrong. So I don't think you need to specify a key. I think that's handled automatically by the whole key extractor thing. I could, instead of using my key extractor, just call it key. But the only reason I don't call it key is because I feel like in most normal data sets, it's called ID, and so you'll have to have a key extractor. But I could try adding a key. Maybe that's it. I don't think that's it, though. Let's see. Does the data format look okay? Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Although it should have worked when it said ID and it had the key extractor. It's a little strange that it didn't. No, because it's defined outside. So I'm sure there's something stupid I'm doing here, but for now, because key is the default, I'll just do it key, and I can figure out exactly what's going on later. It's possible that the same extract key isn't used for both sections and data. The section list and flat list are both very new, so I haven't actually used them in any serious project because I'm still on projects that all use list view. But they are, in theory, what you should be using, so that's why I'm going over them. And they definitely are a little easier to use, which is nice. So, okay, so I switched the data sets to use key instead of ID. I'll paste what I have so far into Slack. And now, this looks mostly all right. I don't have the section headers showing up. here?
Yeah.
Thank you. Great. So now I'll just add some styles to these, and we'll be pretty much done with the list. Oh, and I'll also make the Thursday and Friday switch the content of the list. So to style these, go down and say section header. I want to have a background of white smoke and a padding vertical of 20. Actually, I'll just do a padding all around of 20. And then I want section header text to have font size 13. So I'll go ahead and add section header and section header text onto the elements and render item. And I actually meant to put these on render section header. So I'm going to move them down now. That's better. And now I'll create styles for the item. I forgot to add the speaker text, so I'll do that also. So in my item, there's a second line of text, which is the speaker. So I'll copy my section header and section header text. And I'll say row. Background color will be white. Same, padding 20. Row title will be font size 13, font weight 500 as a string. And row speaker will be font size 13 and no font weight. So I'm now going to add row title, and row speaker to render item styles. Styles.row. The first text will be styles.row title. Second will be row speaker. Looks okay. And you can see that this thing scrolls because that's sort of the whole point of doing the list view, that it's like an optimized scroll view. Then the last thing I'll do is I want to switch the content that's in the list based on which day is selected. So to do that, I'm just going to say if the selected day is Thursday, then I'm going to use the Thursday sections. Otherwise, I'm going to use the Friday sections. And now, you can see that the data switches back and forth. So I'll push this stuff all up. I'll put it in Slack. We just made an optimized section list that lets us display potentially a huge list of conferences and events. And we add the toggle button to let us switch the content in the section list. And we'll use all of this stuff when Brent comes back to do navigation, because when we click on one of these rows, it should take us to the screen we started with, which was the event details screen. So right now we don't have any way to transition between these two screens other than just putting a different one in app, but that's what we'll add with navigation. Yep.
So why is that like specific option for section rendering content? Because as I understood, we can just we can understand in a render item, is it a section or is it not? I don't really get the idea of why we like mention two different functions for just our structure.
Right.
And one more question: is it like just concatenating like two components together, or like a section component like passing props children, and inside section we get like items, like render items. So I don't really get the difference between render item and render section header. Yeah.
I can answer that.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So.
Or can you repeat
the second part? But
can
I
you
can
repeat
repeat
the
the first part of
question?
the question. So the first question was, what's the difference between like render section header and render item? And so, as it stands right now, there is very little difference there. The latest version of React Native actually adds functionality to make it possible for sticky section headers. So as you're scrolling, they stick in various places, right? So this is a special case kind of row, but currently, as it is right now, yeah, it doesn't really make a difference. Like you could be whatever. Okay, what was the second question? Sorry.
The second question, I thought it's like render section header is like a container and it's passed through props children like render items, but it's not.
No, you're right in that it's just like it's like an array of all of the things. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Cool. Oh, sorry, I didn't repeat the question. So, so the question was whether the render section header was like a container that would then contain all of the subsequent items in that section, but it's not. It's just similarly like another row, and they're all siblings inside of an array. It's an implementation detail, really, but if you're curious. Okay, I think we're pretty much good. I think it's break time.
Break time.
Okay, so you should try and rest a lot because I'm going to try and go really fast afterwards to cover forms and navigation and yeah, so do what you got to do to prepare. Go meditate, have a nap, drink a bucket of coffee, have a fist fight. I don't know, whatever gets you going. I guess I'm not responsible if you have a fist fight, but if that's what gets you going, I don't know. I'm going to stop talking.